They thought Earth was weak. Then humanity sent the actual fleet. The 10 seconds passed in silence. Admiral Jiwan waited on the communication screen, her expression patient but firm. Around the Dralin flagship, thousands of human warships held their positions, their weapons powered but not yet aimed. High Commander Velthar finally found his voice. "This is impossible. Our intelligence clearly showed only 47 vessels." "Your intelligence showed exactly what we wanted you to see," Jiwan replied. "Those were civilian ships. Merchants, miners, colonists. Did you really think we'd show you our military forces before we knew your intentions?" Velthar's tactical officer Kreenax leaned close and whispered, "Commander, we should withdraw. The numbers are against us." But Velthar's pride burned hot in his chest. He had conquered 47 worlds in his career. He had never retreated from battle. The Dralin Empire did not run from primitives, no matter how many ships they had hidden away. "It's a trick," he said loudly, more to convince himself than his crew. "These are holographic projections, or civilian ships disguised to look military. Humans have been in space for only 50 years. They cannot possibly have built such a fleet." On the screen, Jiwan's expression didn't change. "You're welcome to believe that if it makes you feel better. But I strongly suggest you withdraw your forces while you still can." Velthar cut the communication channel. He turned to Kreenax. "Analysis. Can we determine if these contacts are real?" Kreenax worked at his console for a moment. "Sir, the sensor returns are consistent with physical vessels. Mass readings are substantial. Power signatures are enormous, actually, much larger than our own ships." "They could be faking the readings," Velthar insisted. "Perhaps," Kreenax said doubtfully. "But to fake this many contacts this accurately across this wide an area? I don't know any species with that technology." Velthar stared at the tactical display. His 800 ships looked like a small cluster of dots compared to the cloud of blue markers surrounding them. Even if half of the human ships were fake, he was still badly outnumbered. But to retreat without firing a single shot? The dishonor would be unbearable. The Dralin Emperor would strip him of rank and title. Other species would mock the Empire for cowardice. "We need proof," he decided. "Demand a demonstration. If their ships are real, let them prove it." The communication channel reopened. G1 appeared again, and this time she was clearly expecting his response. "Let me guess. You want a demonstration?" "Your ships could be anything," Velthar said. "Show me what they can actually do." G1 seemed to consider this for a moment. Then she nodded. "Fair enough. Captain Minho, are you ready?" Another screen opened, showing a younger human male on the bridge of a different vessel. "Ready, Admiral. Target selected." "Proceed," Jiwan said. The view screens on the Dralin flagship changed to show a tactical view of the asteroid belt. One particular asteroid was highlighted, a rough sphere of rock about 8 kilometers in diameter. It tumbled slowly through space among thousands of similar rocks. "That asteroid weighs approximately 400 billion tons," Minho's voice said calmly. "We're going to fire one shot from our main cannon, just one. Watch carefully." On the screen, one of the human vessels, a destroyer-class ship called the Soul's Vengeance, rotated to face the asteroid. The range was enormous, over 2 million kilometers. At that distance, even with the best targeting systems, most weapons would miss. A beam of pure white light connected the human ship to the asteroid for exactly 1 second. Then it vanished. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The asteroid continued tumbling through space, apparently undamaged. Then it began to glow. The entire 8-kilometer rock lit up like a small sun, so bright that the view screens automatically dimmed to protect the crew's eyes. The glow intensified, became blinding white, and then the asteroid simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion in the traditional sense. No fragments flying away. The massive rock just transformed into an expanding sphere of superheated gas and atoms, so hot that it created its own light show visible across the entire inner system. Velthar stared at the screen in disbelief. Beside him, Kreenax was frantically working his console, recording the readings. "Energy yield equivalent to 700 megatons," Kreenax reported, his voice shaking. "Zero radiation signature." "The energy type is—" "I don't recognize it. It's nothing in our database." The targeting precision was perfect at 2 million kilometers. And that was one shot from a destroyer-class vessel. Velthar felt his legs weaken. He gripped the command chair to steady himself. In the Dralin military, their most powerful weapon could destroy a city with a single shot. What he had just witnessed could have destroyed a continent, and the humans treated it as a casual demonstration from one of their smaller ships. The communication screen showed Jiwan again. "Are you satisfied that our vessels are real?" Velthar couldn't respond. His mind was racing through calculations. If even one human destroyer had that much firepower, and they had over 4,000 ships. "I'm going to make this very simple," Jiwan continued. "Earth wants peace. We want to join the galactic community as equals. We want to trade, share knowledge, and build friendships with other species. But we will not be conquered. We will not be subjugated. We built this fleet over the course of a century for one purpose, to ensure that when we finally met other species, we would do so from a position of strength." She leaned forward slightly. "You can withdraw your forces right now. Report back to your council that humanity is not a threat unless provoked. Tell them we're still willing to negotiate, to find peaceful solutions, or you can choose to fight, and we'll be forced to show you exactly how far behind your technology really is." Velthar wanted to order his fleet to fire. Every instinct, every bit of training, every ounce of pride demanded that he attack. But he wasn't stupid. He had just watched a single shot vaporize 400 billion tons of rock. If the humans wanted to destroy his fleet, they could do it easily. "Give me time to consult with my officers," he said, hating how weak his voice sounded. "You have 5 minutes," Jiwan replied and closed the channel. Velthar turned to face his bridge crew. Every officer was staring at him, waiting for orders. He saw fear in their eyes, confusion, and something else. Doubt. They were doubting his leadership for the first time. "Opinions," he said curtly. Kreenak spoke first. "Commander, based on the demonstration, I believe the humans are technologically superior to us. Significantly so. If we engage in combat, I estimate our chances of victory at less than 1%. And if we retreat?" Velthar asked. "We face dishonor," said the weapons officer, a grizzled veteran named Torval. "But we survive. Our crews survive. We can return with information about this threat." "It's not a threat if we don't make it one," said a voice from the back. It was Daeun, the human communications officer. All eyes turned to her. She looked terrified but continued speaking. Admiral Jiwan meant what she said. "Earth wants peace, but humans also believe in being prepared for war. It's an old saying among my people. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst." "You expect me to believe your people are peaceful after seeing that demonstration?" Velthar demanded. "I expect you to understand that my people learned from history," Daeun replied. "We've seen what happens when a less advanced civilization meets a more advanced one. It usually ends badly for the weaker side, so we made sure we wouldn't be the weaker side. But that doesn't mean we want to use these weapons. It just means we have them if we need them." The 5 minutes were nearly up. Velthar looked at the tactical display one more time. His 800 ships, their 4,617. The math was simple, but his pride wouldn't let him simply retreat. If he was going to withdraw, he needed something to show for it. Some victory, however small. "Open a channel to the human admiral," he ordered. Jiwan appeared on screen again. "Your decision." "I will withdraw my forces," Velthar said, each word like swallowing broken glass. "But first I want assurances. How do I know you won't attack the council worlds once we leave?" Jiwan looked genuinely surprised by the question. "We're not interested in attacking anyone. We're interested in being left alone to develop in peace." "Then prove it," Velthar said. "Allow council observers on your worlds. Open diplomatic channels. Show us that you truly want peace." It was a weak demand and everyone knew it, but it gave Velthar something to bring back to the Empire. He wasn't just retreating. He was establishing diplomatic contact, gathering intelligence, keeping Earth engaged with the council where they could be monitored. Jiwan seemed to understand what he was doing. A small smile touched her lips. "Agreed. We'll welcome council observers and diplomats. We'll establish embassies and trade agreements. We'll participate in galactic affairs as partners." Velthar nodded stiffly. "Then we will withdraw." But even as he gave the order, his hand moved to the weapons control. His pride demanded one final gesture. He would fire on the human fleet, just one salvo. Enough to show that the Dralin Empire would not be humiliated without fighting back. Then he would retreat. They thought Earth was weak. Then humanity sent the actual fleet. 3 days after the incident at Earth, the Galactic Council gathered for an emergency session. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all talking at once. The noise was overwhelming until the council leader, an ancient being called the Arbiter, called for silence. Ambassador Subin of the Karathi stood to speak. She had spent the last 3 days reviewing every piece of data, every sensor recording, every communication from the encounter at Sol system. Now she would present her findings to the council. The Drallan fleet of 800 warships entered human space without authorization, she began, her voice clear and calm. They were met by a human defense force numbering 4,617 vessels, all of which had been concealed from our observations for decades. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some species looked skeptical, others looked afraid. I have the recordings here, Subin continued and activated the holographic display. The council watched in silence as the human fleet appeared from nowhere, surrounding the Drallan forces. They watched as a single human destroyer vaporized an 8-kilometer asteroid with one shot. They watched as High Commander Velthar attacked, despite agreeing to withdraw. And they watched as the humans surgically disabled 800 warships in under 4 minutes without killing anyone. When the recording ended, the chamber erupted in chaos. The Drallan Emperor, present via holographic link, was shouting about vengeance and honor. Several aggressive species demanded immediate military action against Earth. The peaceful species called for calm and negotiation. The merchant species quietly calculated the profit potential of trading with such an advanced civilization. Order, the Arbiter commanded, and silence fell. Ambassador Subin, what is your assessment? Earth is the most powerful military force in known space, Subin said bluntly. They likely have the capability to defeat the entire Council fleet if we attack them all at once. However, they have shown no aggressive intentions. They want peace and are willing to use overwhelming force only in defense. They humiliated our fleet, the Drallan Emperor roared. They spared your fleet, Subin corrected gently. Commander Velthar attacked first after agreeing to withdraw. Earth had every right to destroy those ships. Instead, they disabled them and safely returned every crew member. That shows remarkable restraint. The debate continued for hours. Finally, a human delegation arrived, led by Ambassador Hyunwoo and the scholar Young-Soo. They had been invited to explain humanity's position directly to the Council. Young-Soo spoke first. Members of the Galactic Council, we understand your concern. We hid our true capabilities from you, and that seems like deception, but please understand our reasoning. He activated his own display showing images from Earth's history. Empires rising and falling, cultures destroyed by more advanced neighbors. Slavery, genocide, conquest. This is our history, Jung-Soo explained. For thousands of years, whenever one human culture met another with superior technology, the less advanced culture was conquered or destroyed. We learned this lesson in blood and suffering, so when we discovered we weren't alone in the universe, when we realized there were species thousands of years more advanced than us, we made a decision. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with various representatives. We decided that we would never be the conquered people. We would build strength to protect ourselves. But we also decided we would never become the conquerors. We would use our strength only for defense and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Pretty words, said a representative from one of the more aggressive species. But how do we know you won't use your fleet to dominate the galaxy? Hyunwoo stepped forward. Because we're offering to share our technology. Not all of it, not immediately, but enough to prove our good intentions. We'll help improve Council shield technology, making all species better able to defend themselves. We'll share our medical advances. We'll establish trade agreements that benefit everyone. And if we refuse, the Drallan Emperor demanded, then we'll remain in our own space and leave you alone. Hyunwoo replied calmly. We don't need the Council. We're offering partnership because we believe it's better for everyone, including us. But we won't force ourselves on anyone. The Council debated for 3 more days. Species formed alliances and counter-alliances. Some wanted to immediately make peace with Earth. Others wanted to prepare for war. Most were simply confused about how to handle a situation they had never encountered before. Finally, a vote was held. By a narrow margin, the Council agreed to accept Earth as a full member with equal status. In exchange, Earth agreed to share some technology, assist in protecting weaker species from aggression, and establish embassies on various Council worlds. The first human embassy opened on the Karathi homeworld 6 months later. Ambassador Subin personally welcomed engineer Seo-hyun, who came to teach Karathi scientists about Earth's shield technology. The two became close friends, spending hours discussing the differences between their cultures. "Your people value patience and observation," Seo Hyun noted one day as they shared a meal. "You took the time to study Earth carefully before making contact. And your people value preparation," Subin replied. "You took the time to build strength before revealing yourselves. Perhaps we can learn from each other." Artist Jaiho organized the first interspecies cultural festival on a neutral station in the galactic core. Humans displayed their art, music, and literature alongside dozens of other species. A Dralan warrior named Torval, who had served on Velthar's fleet, attended the festival and found himself moved to tears by a human symphony. He later wrote that it was the first time he understood that strength and beauty could exist in the same species. Dr. Kyungmin established a joint medical research facility on Earth's moon, where scientists from 12 different species worked together to cure diseases and improve healthcare across the galaxy. The breakthroughs came quickly when different perspectives and different technologies combined. Trade coordinator, Youngji negotiated commercial partnerships that made several species wealthy, while also benefiting Earth's economy. Human manufacturing techniques combined with alien resource processing created products no single species could have made alone. But the most difficult question remained: what to do about the Dralan Empire? The empire had been built on conquest. For centuries they had expanded by subjugating weaker species. Now, with Earth watching and ready to intervene, that expansion stopped. The emperor raged, but he wasn't foolish enough to provoke a war with humanity. Within the empire, a debate began. Crown Prince Jay, the emperor's youngest son, led a faction that argued for reform. "We cannot continue as we have," he told the Imperial Council. "Earth has shown us that we are not invincible. More importantly, they've shown us an alternative path." "You would have us become weak?" demanded one of the old generals. "I would have us become strong in a different way," Jay replied. "Strong through knowledge, through trade, through alliances built on mutual benefit rather than fear. The old way leads only to eventual defeat. The new way leads to prosperity." The debate continued for months. Finally, Jay did something unprecedented. He traveled to Earth personally, without his father's permission, to meet with Admiral Jiwan. They met in the gardens of the United Nations headquarters in Geneva. Jiwan had retired from active military service but still served as an advisor to Earth's government. She welcomed Jay warmly but carefully. "Your father won't be pleased that you're here," she observed. "My father clings to the old ways because change frightens him," Jay replied. "But I've studied your history. I know that your species changed. You went from conquering each other to working together. How did you do it?" Jiwan considered the question as they walked among the flowers. "It wasn't easy. It took disasters, wars, near extinction. We learned the hard way that cooperation is better than conflict. But the key was this. We had to admit that the old way wasn't working. We had to be willing to try something new, even if it meant giving up power and pride. Can my people make that change?" Jay asked quietly. "I don't know," Jiwan admitted, "but I believe they can. The fact that you're here asking these questions shows that change is possible." They talked for hours, discussing philosophy, history, and the future. By the time Jay left Earth, he had a plan. 5 years passed. The Galactic Council grew accustomed to having Earth as a member. Human ships patrolled the galactic rim alongside vessels from a dozen other species, protecting trade routes and colony worlds from pirates and raiders. Earth's technology spread slowly through the galaxy, improving life for billions. And the Dralan Empire began to change. Crown Prince Jay became Crown Prince Regent when his father fell ill. Though the old emperor still lived, Jay held real power now. He started small, establishing trade agreements instead of conquering new worlds. He offered aid to species the empire had previously oppressed. He opened diplomatic channels with former enemies. The old generals grumbled, but the younger officers and the common people supported the changes. The empire was still strong, but now that strength was used differently. They thought Earth was weak. Then humanity sent the actual fleet high commander. Velthar's finger hovered over the weapons control. Around him, his bridge crew tensed. They could see what he was about to do. Some looked relieved that their commander would finally show some strength. Others looked horrified at the decision. "Commander, don't," Kreenax said quietly. "We agreed to withdraw. After we show them that the Dralan Empire cannot be threatened without consequence," Velthar replied. His pride had taken control now. overriding his better judgment. All ships prepare to fire on my command. Full salvo. Then we jumped to faster than light immediately afterward. Across his fleet, 800 warships powered up their weapons. Plasma cannons charged. Missile tubes loaded. Particle beam arrays reached maximum power. The combined firepower of the Drallan fleet could level a continent. Belthar felt a savage satisfaction. Let the humans see that even if they won, it wouldn't be without a fight. Fire, he shouted. 800 ships unleashed their weapons at once. The space between the Drallan fleet and the nearest human vessels filled with deadly light. Plasma bolts streaked forward at a significant fraction of light speed. Missiles accelerated on pillars of fusion fire. Particle beams tore through the vacuum. Belthar watched the tactical display, waiting for the impacts, waiting for the human shields to collapse, waiting for satisfaction. Nothing happened. Every plasma bolt curved away at the last moment as if pushed aside by an invisible hand. Every missile lost lock and tumbled uselessly into space. Every particle beam scattered into harmless radiation before reaching its target. The human fleet hadn't moved. They remained in exact formation, as if the Drallan attack had never occurred. Not a single shield flickered. Not a single ship took damage. What happened? Belthar demanded. Why didn't we hit them? Kreenak stared at his console in disbelief. Sir, they have some kind of defensive field we've never seen before. It's not shield technology as we know it. It's manipulating space itself around their ships. Our weapons couldn't even reach them. A new communication channel opened. This time it wasn't Admiral G1. It was the destroyer Captain Minho. His expression was stern. That was foolish, Commander Belthar, he said. You agreed to withdraw, then attacked anyway. Now we can't let you leave until we're certain you won't be a threat to anyone. Before Belthar could respond, another voice came through the communication system. It was a woman named Yuna, identifying herself as captain of the Busan Guardian. We're going to disable your weapon systems now. We won't destroy your ships. We won't harm your crews. We're just going to make sure you can't hurt anyone. You can't disable 800 ships, Belthar said. But even as he spoke, he knew it was pointless. Watch, Yuna replied simply. The human fleet moved. Not all of them, just a few hundred vessels. They spread out in a precise pattern, each one targeting specific Drallan ships. The coordination was perfect, like watching a dance performed by thousands of dancers who knew every step by heart. Then they fired. Unlike the massive demonstration shot that destroyed the asteroid, these were surgical strikes. Thin beams of energy, barely visible, reached out from the human ships and touched specific points on the Drallan vessels. Not the hull, not the crew quarters, just the weapons arrays. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, alarms began blaring. Sir, our primary weapons are offline, the weapons officer shouted. Secondary weapons offline. All weapon systems are... They're just gone. All across the fleet, the same thing was happening. 800 warships, their entire weapons systems surgically removed in less than 4 minutes. Power cores still functioned. Life support remained active. Engines worked perfectly. But every single weapon, from the smallest point defense gun to the largest plasma cannon, was now useless scrap metal. The human vessels had targeted and disabled exactly what they wanted to disable. Nothing more and nothing less across 800 ships simultaneously. The precision was terrifying. Admiral Jiwan's face appeared on the main screen again. This time her expression was disappointed, like a teacher who had caught a student cheating after promising not to. You gave your word you would withdraw, Commander Belthar. Then you attacked anyway. Do you understand what we just showed you? We could have destroyed your entire fleet in those 4 minutes. We could have killed every crew member on every ship. But we didn't. Do you know why? Belthar said nothing. His throat felt tight. Because we meant what we said about wanting peace, Jiwan continued. We're going to give you a choice now. Your crews can abandon ship. We'll transport them safely to neutral territory in the Galactic core, where they can arrange transport home. Or they can wait in their disabled vessels for rescue by your own forces. Either way, we will not fire another shot. We will not take prisoners. We want nothing from the Drallan Empire except for you to leave us alone. She paused, then added, and we want you to take a message back to your council. Earth wants peace. Earth wants friendship. Earth wants to be part of the galactic community. But Earth will not be threatened. Earth will not be conquered. And Earth will not allow its people to be enslaved or hurt. Remember this day, Commander. Remember that we had the power to destroy you but chose mercy instead. The communication ended. Velthar stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by officers who wouldn't meet his eyes. Outside, thousands of human ships waited patiently. Inside, his own ship was helpless, Commander. Kreenak said quietly. What are your orders? Velthar looked at the tactical display one more time. Then he looked at the faces of his crew. Young officers, veteran soldiers, technicians and specialists who had families waiting for them at home. He had led them into this disaster through pride and stubbornness. The least he could do was get them home safely. Open a channel to all ships in the fleet, he said, his voice hoarse. All personnel are to abandon ship. Accept the human offer of transport to neutral space. Over the next 6 hours, human transport vessels moved between the disabled Drallan ships, carefully evacuating every crew member. The process was efficient and professional. Medical Officer Hagen personally tended to a Drallan soldier who had been injured when a weapons console exploded. She worked quickly, her hands gentle, explaining each procedure through the translation device. Chaplain Junho moved through the transport ships, offering comfort to frightened crew members. He spoke about the importance of peace, about learning from mistakes, about going home to families. Some Drallan soldiers listened. Others glared at him with hatred. He remained patient with all of them. Supply Officer Taeyong made sure every evacuated crew member received food, water, and basic supplies for their journey. No one should travel hungry, he said through the translator, handing out ration packs to confused Drallan warriors who had expected to be killed or imprisoned. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Velthar was the last to leave. He stood alone in the command center looking at the dark screens and silent consoles. Everything he had built, every victory, every conquest meant nothing now. He had been utterly defeated by a species he had considered primitive. A human officer named Dong Yun met him at the airlock. This way, Commander. We have a transport ready for you, Velthar followed silently. As they walked through the corridors of the human transport ship, he saw other Drallan crew members being treated with respect and basic courtesy. No mockery, no cruelty, just professional efficiency. Before boarding the long-range transport that would take them to neutral space, Dong-Hyun stopped him. Commander Velthar, I have a message to deliver. Admiral Jiwan wants you to tell your council something specific. What message? Velthar asked. Tell them that Earth studied your history. We know the Drallan Empire has conquered 47 worlds. We know you've enslaved populations, destroyed cultures, and ruled through fear. We want you to know that we will not allow that to continue. Dong-Yun's expression was serious but not cruel. If you attack another species, especially a weaker one that cannot defend itself, Earth will intervene. We built this fleet not just to protect ourselves, but to make sure no one else suffers what we feared we might suffer. Velthar stared at the young human officer. You would fight wars for other species, why? Because it's the right thing to do, Dong-Hyun replied simply. Because we believe that strength should be used to protect, not to conquer. Because we've seen what happens when the strong prey on the weak, and we've decided that galaxy needs to change. He stepped back. Have a safe journey home, Commander. The transport doors closed. Velthar found a seat next to Kreenak, who looked as shaken as he felt. Around them, hundreds of Drallan crew members sat in silence, processing what had happened. We attacked them, Kreenak said quietly. We fired first after agreeing to withdraw, and they still showed us mercy. They humiliated us, Velthar replied bitterly. They could have killed us, Kreenak countered. They chose not to. That's not humiliation. He struggled for the word. That's honor. Real honor. Not the honor of conquest and victory, but the honor of strength restrained by wisdom. Velthar didn't reply. He closed his eyes and tried to imagine explaining this to the Emperor, to the Council, to the entire Drallan Empire. They had been defeated by humans without losing a single life. They thought Earth was weak. Then humanity sent the actual Fleet High Commander Velthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, and watched the stars streak past as his fleet moved through faster than light travel. Behind him, 800 Drallan warships followed in perfect formation. It was more than 5 times what would be needed to crush Earth's pathetic defenses. But Velthar believed in sending messages. When Earth fell, every species in the galaxy would know what happened to those who defied the Council. 2 hours until we reached Sol System, his navigator reported. Velthar nodded. Beside him, his tactical officer Kreenak reviewed the intelligence reports one more time. Their weapons are primitive kinetic projectiles and basic missiles. No energy shields. No antimatter weapons. They've been in space for less than 50 years. And yet their commander was confident, Velthar mused. Why? Pride, Kreenak suggested. The humans have a history of stubborn resistance even when facing certain defeat. Their records show countless examples of small forces fighting against overwhelming odds. It's cultural, not rational. Velthar considered this. He had studied humanity's history during the journey. They were a warlike species, true, but their wars had all been fought with primitive technology. They had no experience with real galactic warfare. Their confidence was misplaced. Maintain formation, he ordered. When we arrive, broadcast surrender terms immediately. Perhaps they'll see reason when they witness our fleet. The hours passed slowly. The crew checked and rechecked their weapons systems. Everything was ready. This would be the easiest conquest in Draylen history. Finally, the fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Sol system. The view screens showed a yellow star in the distance, with several planets orbiting around it. The third planet from the sun was Earth, the human homeworld. Deploy sensors, Velthar commanded. Locate all human vessels. The sensor officer worked at his station for several minutes, then looked up with a confused expression. Sir, I'm detecting 47 vessels, just as the intelligence reports indicated. But they're scattered across the system. No defensive formation. They appear to be continuing normal operations. They're not even preparing to defend themselves? Kreenak asked, incredulous. Show me, Velthar said. The main screen changed to display a tactical map of the system. Sure enough, there were the human ships. 3 mining vessels near the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. 5 colony transports near Mars itself. A dozen cargo ships moving between Earth and its moon. The rest were small patrol craft, spread out in 1s and 2s throughout the inner system. Open a channel to Earth, Velthar ordered. Broadcast on all frequencies. When the channel was ready, he spoke. Humans of Earth, this is High Commander Velthar of the Drallan Empire. You rejected the Council's generous terms. Now you face the consequences. We are 800 strong. Your fleet numbers less than 50. Surrender immediately or we will destroy every vessel you possess and occupy your world. You have 1 hour to respond. The message transmitted. They waited. No response came from Earth, but something else happened. Sir, the sensor officer said, his voice uncertain. The human vessels, they're moving. Finally forming a defensive line? Kreenak asked. No, sir. They're leaving. Velthar stepped closer to the screen. The tactical display showed the human vessels one by one, activating their faster-than-light drives and jumping away from the system. The mining ships vanished. The colony transports disappeared. The cargo vessels fled. Within 10 minutes, every single human ship had left Sol system entirely. The bridge fell silent. Officers looked at each other in confusion. They abandoned their homeworld, Kreenak said slowly. They just ran away. Velthar felt a mixture of satisfaction and disappointment. It seems the humans are more practical than we thought. They chose survival over pride. He turned to his navigator. Set course for Earth. We'll establish orbit and begin occupation procedures. Sir, a voice said from behind him. It was quiet, almost hesitant. Velthar turned to see Daeun, one of the communications officers. She was human, captured years ago from a colony ship and pressed into service. She rarely spoke unless directly addressed. What is it? Velthar asked. Permission to speak freely, Commander? Velthar was intrigued. The human girl looked frightened but determined. Granted. You should ask yourself why they left, Daeun said carefully. Humans don't abandon their homes. Not without reason. Not unless, she trailed off. Unless what? Unless they were clearing the area for something else. Velthar stared at her for a moment, then dismissed the comment with a wave. Your people fled because they knew they couldn't win. Simple as that. He turned back to his crew. Proceed to Earth orbit. The fleet moved deeper into the system, passing Mars, then the orbital path of Earth's moon. The planet itself came into view on the screens. A blue and green sphere wrapped in white clouds. It looked peaceful, defenseless. Achieving orbital position, the navigator reported. No resistance detected. Begin scanning for military installations, Velthar ordered. We'll need to identify their command centers and weapons facilities. Sir, the sensor officer said, and there was something strange in his voice. I'm getting new contacts. More human ships returning? Kreenak asked. No, sir. These are coming from Earth itself. From the oceans. The tactical display began to fill with new markers. Blue dots appeared in the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, dozens of them. Then hundreds from the oceans. Velthar said, "What are you talking about?" "Sir, I'm also detecting contacts from the moon. They're coming from the far side where we couldn't scan them before." More dots appeared on the display. The moon was apparently hollow with ships emerging from massive hidden bays. "And contacts from high orbit, sir. They're decloaking." The blue dots multiplied. 12 became 100. 100 became 500. 500 became 1,000. "This can't be right," Kreenak said, staring at the display. "Check for malfunctions." "Systems are functioning normally," the sensor officer replied, his voice rising with panic. "The contacts are real. Sir, I'm counting over 4,000 vessels now, and they're still appearing." Velthar felt ice form in his stomach. He watched the tactical display transform from a map of an empty system to a map showing thousands of warships, all bearing Earth's insignia. Ships larger than anything in the Drallan fleet. Ships that had been hiding in plain sight waiting. A communication channel opened without being hailed. A woman's face appeared on the screen. It was Commander Jiwan, but she wore a different uniform now, one with more rank insignia. "You saw our merchant fleet, Commander Velthar," she said, her voice calm and professional. "Now you're seeing our actual fleet. We sent the civilians away so they wouldn't be in danger during this conversation." Velthar couldn't speak. He stared at the screen, then at the tactical display, then back at the screen. "I'm Admiral Jiwan of the United Earth Defense Force," she continued. "Final tally is 4,617 warships, in case you're interested. You have exactly 10 seconds to begin withdrawing your forces from Sol System, or we will interpret your presence as an act of war." She paused. "Your 10 seconds starts now." The bridge of the Eternal Conquest was completely silent except for the quiet beeping of the countdown timer that appeared on every screen. Velthar stood frozen, staring at the impossible numbers on the tactical display. His 800 ships were surrounded by nearly 5,000 human warships. Everything he knew about Earth, everything the Council believed about humanity, had been a lie. The countdown reached 0. They thought Earth was weak, then humanity sent the actual fleet. The diplomatic vessel moved slowly through the darkness of space, its white hull reflecting the light from distant stars. Inside the ship, Commander Jiwan stood at the window and watched the massive structure ahead grow larger with each passing moment. The Galactic Council's orbital station was enormous, easily 10 times the size of anything humanity had ever built. Beside her, Ambassador Hyunwoo adjusted his formal uniform one more time, his hand slightly shaking. "Nervous?" Jiwan asked without looking at him. "Should I not be?" Hyunwoo replied. "We're about to meet with species that have been traveling the stars for thousands of years. We've barely been out here for 50. Jiwan turned to face him, her expression calm. "They asked to meet us. That's a good sign." Science Officer Minji looked up from her datapad, her young face troubled. "The preliminary reports aren't encouraging, Commander. The Drallan Empire controls most of this sector. They've conquered 47 worlds in the last 3 centuries. Their military force is substantial." "How substantial?" Hyunwoo asked. "Over 3,000 warships," Minji said quietly. "That's just what we've been able to confirm from long-range observations." Jiwan returned her gaze to the station ahead. She said nothing, but her jaw tightened slightly. After a moment she spoke. "Stick to the plan. We're here to establish peaceful relations. To show them we're reasonable people who want to be part of the galactic community." The ship docked with a soft thud. The airlocks connected with a hiss of pressurizing air. Jiwan led the way into the station, followed by Hyunwoo and Minji. The corridor was massive, built for species much larger than humans. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. They were met by a guide, a thin creature with gray skin and 4 arms who spoke through a translation device. "The Council awaits you in the primary chamber. Please follow." The chamber was circular and vast, with seats arranged in rising tiers all around the edges. Dozens of alien species sat in those seats, watching the 3 humans with expressions that ranged from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. At the center of the room on a raised platform sat the Drallan representatives. They were tall, easily 8 feet in height, with dark red skin and eyes that gleamed like polished stone. The largest Drallan stood. "I am High Commander Velthar of the Drallan Empire. You represent Earth, the world your species calls home. That's correct, Jiwon said, her voice steady and clear despite the size difference. I'm Commander Jiwon. This is Ambassador Hyunwoo and Science Officer Minji. We come in peace and friendship. Velthar made a sound that might have been laughter. Several other species in the chamber joined in. Peace and friendship. How quaint. Your species has established 5 colony worlds and systems near our territory. You expand without permission, without understanding the protocols that govern this galaxy. We weren't aware there were protocols, Hyunwoo said, stepping forward. We've been broadcasting messages for decades, hoping to make contact. No one responded until now. Because we were observing, said another voice. This came from a smaller alien with pale blue skin, seated to Velthar's left. I am Ambassador Subin of the Karathi people. We needed to understand your nature before making contact. Your species has a violent history. So does every species in this room, Jiwon replied. But we've grown. We've learned. We're ready to join the galactic community as peaceful partners. Velthar waved one massive hand dismissively. Partners? You presume too much, human. You are newcomers. Children playing with toys you barely understand. The council has discussed your situation and reached a decision. He gestured and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of local space with Earth's 5 colonies marked in red. You will surrender 3 of your 5 colony worlds to council authority. You will submit to technological limitations that we will specify, and you will accept monitoring stations throughout your space operated by council forces. The chamber fell silent. Jiwon felt Hyunwoo tense beside her, heard Minji's sharp intake of breath. She kept her own expression neutral. And if we refuse? Velthar's eyes narrowed. Then the council will be forced to take action. Your fleet is modest. We counted 47 vessels, mining ships mostly, a few colony transports, some small patrol craft with weapons that are laughable by galactic standards. He leaned forward. The Dralin Empire alone could send 1,000 ships to your world. The council combined could send 10,000. Do you understand the situation you face? Jiwon held his gaze for a long moment. Around the chamber, dozens of alien species watched and waited. She could feel the weight of the moment, the future of humanity balanced on what she said next. I understand perfectly, she said quietly. You're threatening us because you think we're weak. You believe you can bully us into submission because we're new to the galaxy. She paused. You're making a mistake. Velthar's expression darkened. Are you threatening the council? No, Jiwon said. I'm informing you that Earth rejects your terms. We claim no territory that isn't ours by right of settlement. We threaten no one. We ask only to be left in peace to develop as we choose. If you can't accept that, then we have nothing more to discuss. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several species were shouting at once, though the translation was too garbled to make out individual words. Velthar raised his hand and silence fell again. He studied Jiwon with what might have been respect or might have been rage. You're either very brave or very foolish, he said. Perhaps both. Very well. We will give you 1 standard week to reconsider. Return to your world. Discuss this with your leaders. Think carefully about the consequences of defiance. He gestured toward the exit. This meeting is concluded. Jiwon nodded once, then turned and walked toward the exit. Hyunwoo and Minji followed. As they reached the doorway, Jiwon paused and looked back. Her eyes found Ambassador Subin in the crowd. Ambassador Subin, she called out, her voice carrying across the chamber. A word of advice. Tell your people to stay away from Sol system for the next 10 days. For their own safety. Subin's expression flickered with surprise, but she nodded slowly. Jiwon turned and left the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the vast corridor. Behind her, Velthar watched the humans depart. Then he began to laugh, a deep booming sound that filled the chamber. Did you hear that? The humans warn us away from their system. They think their 47 mining ships can stand against the might of the council. He looked around at the assembled species. In 10 days, we will teach Earth the price of defiance. Prepare a punishment fleet. 800 ships should be more than sufficient to crush their pathetic resistance. In the corridor, walking back to their ship, Hyunwoo finally spoke. Did we just declare war on the entire galaxy? No, Jiwon said. We just made them show their cards. Now they'll come to Earth expecting an easy victory. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They're going to be very surprised. Minji glanced at her commander. Should we warn Earth to prepare? Earth has been preparing for this moment for 100 years, Jiwan replied. It's time to show the galaxy who we really are.